Hi, I'm Carl Loveridge from Extra Cheesy Games, and today I am going to do a tutorial and a general discussion about pipelines, what a pipeline is in when you hear that term in games, and also talk about making your art style your own, which is a very difficult subject to nail down, and both these subjects, frankly, are a little abstract. So hopefully, I can make it clear what this is, because you're going to hear these terms all the time in making games. In particular, let's start off by talking about a pipeline. That's kind of a buzzword, which has come to sound like, hey, I know what I'm doing if I'm using pipelines, right? So uh, I'm going to just give you a basic description of what I'm going to do in my pipeline here, because there's all sorts of pipelines. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. In my particular case, what we're going to do today is I'm going to let me show you the problem first of all, and then how we're going to solve this. Actually, yeah, I guess that works. So here I am in Maya, and I have in my game Humans Must Eat. I've got the problem that I need to paint tons of little food elements and stuff to show up in my game. And so the problem I've got is because I have so much of this, I've got to come up with an efficient way to 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 paint these things. Now, the other problem I have is uh, art style. Now, I am a mediocre texture artist at best. I'm not ashamed to admit that. That is a skill set that the very good artists are. They're just so good at it that they just anything they drew. They drew a line. Hey, that's a beautiful line. That's not me. I'm still always trying to reach that peak of art. So for me, with the game I'm doing, being that it is an indie game and it is completely done by me, I have to pick an art style that one I can achieve consistency with, and secondly that I can draw that doesn't make people want to puke when they see what it is, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to paint some of these elements and how my pipeline, the little pipeline I've done, is set up so that I can paint and just it's basically I call it chopping wood. It's like, okay, here's the next piece. Do this to it. Go through this process. When you're done, throw it on the pile. Go to the next piece. That's the pipeline. Okay, so let's show you the piece. And this morning is one of those mornings I've got to use my glasses. So what I've got here is I've got elements like these cups. Now I've done these cookies and I've done these two lemons. This is a yellow lemonade and this is going to be my pink lemonade. You'll later this will make sense when people start seeing the game. But I've got these cups and one set here. What I've done is my hierarchy, and I'm in Maya by the way. This is I have what's called Mom's Fancy Small Cup and Large Cup, and then I have the basic small cup and large cup. Okay, so these are the two sets of cups that are going to show. One's the before they're upgraded, and the other one's the upgraded version of it. So what I'm going to do is let's go over into Photoshop here. What my target for this concept art is, I'm packing it into this super map. Now, I've done, or this atlas, I've started this a long time ago, and my philosophy has changed over time, and I'm realizing I've got to do so much content. These maps have got to be within reason. So what I'm doing is this first one of this fry packet is way big. This is a 1024 map. It's too big for the size it shows up on screen, so I'm eventually going to overwrite this. But I'm going to start this white square up here. I'm going to pack in these cups because I'm finding that for the size these show up on screen, a 128 map per element is pretty good. So my first stage of the pipeline starts off in Maya, and over here in my UV unwrap, I've created a mess that looks like when it's the map's on, but then when you see it like this, you see it makes sense. So each one of these cups represents one of the quadrants of this map. Okay, so this is 0 to 1 space right here where this shows up. So each one of these are going to show up in one of those quadrants. So I unwrapped it. I put them in the quadrants like you saw. That's stage 1 of my pipeline. My second stage is we're going to export this out to my rendering tools. And this is where we're going to talk a little bit about art style. You know, I love Mac, but I do not like their full screen stuff. It makes me insane. So I don't know how to get out of it, especially when I'm in a situation like this. So I need to find my file. Where's my file? My second monitor. There it is. Okay. That's it. You're going away full screen. Hey, and if Apple, you ever listen to anybody what they say, which I don't know if you do, why the hell did you make it so when I click this green thing, you assume I want to take up my entire real estate? That should never have been what the option was. This should always have said, I'm going to just make that like this. If you have to fix this by hitting the option key, then it goes to plus, then it just fills the screen. That's the default. You don't make the full screen one be what it is. I could rant for hours about my issues sometimes with engineering, design, things in our software that we have to deal with. I digress. Let's go back out to where we're going. Exporting my stuff to my tools. Alright, so I'm going to say File, Export, and first, the second stage is where do you put your content? How do you organize it? For myself, I've discussed this in other videos. See this map? This map I call Food A. Okay? So my pipeline says when I export this stuff, I've got to be able to find this stuff 3 months from now when I need to edit it, right? So part of the challenge is where do you keep track of your stuff so you don't lose track of it? Now this is a lot easier when it's just me working on my indie game than it will be if you work on large teams. And as you get in large teams, one of the problems that you run into is management. How do you manage all these people needing to work together? Because now you've got to put this huge layer of management. When you're by yourself as an indie developer, you're really agile. You can make smart decisions. You know where things are. You don't have people moving the furniture around on you as you go. So for myself, what I have done is I actually have an external drive where I'm building up my artwork in Substance Painter, and I have a folder out on this drive. And if I go out to this food, there I keep track of my map. Everything that's going to go on this map goes into this folder called Food. Okay, and I've already kind of started this, but I had Mom's Cups. Now I've actually got some old stuff in here actually that's not old stuff. These are other elements that are on here, but this is Mom's Cups. I export it, and one of the things I try to do when it's possible is keep the names consistent, but to kind of make it so I could paint this a little more efficiently, I packed all these cups together. You'll notice that I spread them apart the way I did, and that is on purpose because when I go in here and paint, they can't be stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to go ahead and say export this thing to an FBX format, and let's go over to Substance Painter. Now that's Substance Designer. I'm going to talk a little bit about that too today. Let's fire up Substance Painter. I am a big advocate for Substance Painter. The more I'm using it, it helps with, especially me being an indie developer, and my lack of art skill makes it so that it helps me look better than I really am. So let's start a new document, and I'm going to go load Mom's Cups, OpenGL, all that good stuff, and let's go ahead and bake the textures in. You set these out there, bake. Okay. Now this is kind of my painting step in that pipeline as I'm going through this thing. Now, if you're an indie developer, I think it's very important that you establish your art style and then you get disciplined to think about it and to match that style, okay? Because my inclination when I do textures is I think I want to paint it to look like that. So let's say I was painting a cookie, for example. Let me go grab a cookie texture. My inclination is, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chrome. Let me find my picture. Oh, that's another thing. If on the Mac, if you don't drag it all the way into the monitor, it'll not show up, and then you wonder what the heck happened to it. It's a chocolate chip cookie. One thing that's great, I'll tell you, living in 2017, doing artwork versus 2000 is way better because you have access to source material by what does a cookie look like? What does this look like? And that's very helpful to be able to go out and just say, I want to see what this looks like. And so when I look at this cookie, for example, I think I got to make that look like that. And my brain is to go for the look of what I see, and sometimes it's hard to stay true to your art style. I cannot paint that cookie. I am just not that good of an artist to paint it exactly like that. So I had to come up with an art style I could achieve over and over and over and produce in my pipeline the same looking content. So I'm going to show you how I achieve my art style and how I am able to maintain that consistency. Alright, so the first thing I want to show you is over here in Substance Designer. I designed a very simple material that I'm going to use here today. Basically all it is I have two colors that I want to blend by this particular noise pattern. It produces the final output, which is this kind of an oscillating color between two colors. I can pick those two colors. And then I also packed in a normal map into this that I can control the intensity. Okay, so this is one of the tools I'm using in my pipeline to keep my art style consistent. And again, the goal with what I'm trying to achieve here is a consistent art style, and to make it fast. So let me just show you how fast I can get these ready. So I've got these cups, and I'm going to try to do this with minimal amount of pain and suffering from the audience here. So what I do here is this. I make a fill layer, and I'm going to make my choice of colors for these is the small cup is going to be green and the large cup is going to be yellow. Okay, so I came in here and I'm going to take a material, and there's my tonal thing as it got exported out. I'm going to drop this on here. Now a cup obviously does not have too much normal map influence, so I come in here, I drag down my normal intensity till it's nothing. I don't like this color, so I'm going to tweak it. And I personally really dig this about Substance Painter, that I can blend materials like this, and I have found that it doesn't look natural to me to make a surface that's just a solid color. So for example, if I was to do this without my shader, I can get yellow, but see, there's just something not quite right, because really what I'm going to export is this. This is with the materials on. That's not exactly how it's going to export. Yeah, that's a yellow cup, but that doesn't look good to me, right? So my solution is let's add a little bit of spice to it by making it look a little bit colored, because nothing in real life is perfectly even. Even go look at your walls, for example. You'll look at it and there's an inconsistency that happens. So that's what I'm trying to achieve here. The next thing here is the lighting. I have a material. It's a smart material where I've kind of set up my lighting conditions that are going to bake inside of Substance Painter. And basically what I do is I drop this on here, and you'll notice if I turn this on and off, see how I'm now getting in what I'm going to bake out just a little bit of hint of tonality on here. I've got this kind of a highlight, and there's some ambient occlusion. That's all just going to come through with this kind of two-toning noise. So that's that stage. Now the yellow, I told you there's going to be a green cup for the a green cup for the small yellow is the large. So let me duplicate this, and I'm going to call this a small cup, or small cup. And I'm going to call this next one, duplicate this. This one's going to be called my large cup. Okay, now I have to keep my orientation right here. This side is my fancy cups, this side is my basic cups. So I'm going to go down inside of here, and I'm going to make a green color. And I'm just going to come up with a green that is too putrid of a green. I'm trying to think of fun and fancy colors that don't make you want to puke. So what I'm doing here is I don't want those tonalities. I don't want the blend to be extreme like that, because that reads harshly to me, but I want it to be just kind of soft, so there's a hint there. Okay, so now that's good. Let's say that's the color of green I wanted. That doesn't feel good enough to me. Let me tone that up. You got to be careful. You go right between colors, you can get right into a putrid color. Which one was I tuning? Was it that one? Let's call that good. You may not like that color. I may not like it later, but nice thing with the pipeline I've established here, if I don't like it, I can quickly go back and edit it. Okay, so here I'm going to add a black mask, and I'm going to say, now my large cups, you guys are the ones that get this. Small cups, you're still yellow. Now, I am going to call the color, okay, now cups obviously aren't green all the way through, so I'm going to make another layer. But this one I'm going to put on a tonal color like this. Add a black mask, and you know what? Here's one thing about Substance Painter. I don't know what it is. If I touch faces, let's say my UVs to do this. If I touch with the Wacom tablet, oh, they might have improved this, because boy, for a while there, you touch this stuff. Yeah. Okay, so I'm touching it. See how it went through? I'm on my UV mask here, but it's going through and it's touching that outer edge. I don't know what it is about the tablet, whether it's the shakiness, but if I click with a mouse, well, maybe my UVs aren't the same. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. I'm supposed to be able to just tap where the UVs are, and that's where it goes. So what I'm doing is filling in the interior and exterior, the parts of the cup that are white, right? Alright, so I'm going to do this with this edge. This is a little trickier. In fact, what I'll probably do is, let's just do, these are so complicated to do this way. I'm just going to do the whole cup. This is why I love Substance Painter. And let's just say, kill it here. So I'm going to flip that, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off. And then I'm just going to have to go touch this one more time with UV. So what I'm doing here, Substance Painter has a fabulous way of hitting stuff, or getting exactly the faces you want. And the way I've set this up, I come to this page, you can see where the way this tool works is the UVs. It's looking how I broke them up, and what it does, it fills out the UVs. So this piece right here, here, and here, the way I broke my UVs up are inside of here. And you know, one thing I want to do is I don't want to discourage new people using tools or seeing how somebody does things. I know I'll see somebody use something, I just never would have thought to try that. Don't feel that way, because you know what? It just takes experience to learn how to do this stuff. And you'd be surprised if you sit down and you just start doing it, how quickly you pick up this stuff. Because I didn't know all this stuff. I had to learn it day by day through pain and suffering, just like everyone else will. Some people are very adept at this, and it's like nothing to them. I'm jealous of those people. For myself, this took a lot of years of practice, and I'm still learning. You know what? And I'll tell you, if you're going to do games or anything in software, be prepared to have a lifetime commitment to learning, because you'll never be finished learning. All right, so I feel pretty good about that. All right, now what I want to do for my fancy cup is I wanted to kind of say, and this is going to seem like a small thing, but it does exactly what I feel like it needs to. I am going to tap the bottom with this just a little bit with some color. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make another, oftentimes cups in restaurants they're filled with some kind of a logo, right? So I'm going to come up with, not a logo, but, well, they do have logos too, but they're going to be striped. So my concept here is with the with a basic cup, you just get a green and yellow cup. And you also have to consider in my game, I'm going to have shaders that are going to do a little bit of work to this. So it may look flat in here to some extent as far as like any personality with specularity and all that. I know the way my pipeline works down the road, there'll be some specularity added to this. I don't care about that particular detail. All right, so let's do the fancy version of this. This is going to be a little more tricky because I don't have polygons to rely on to guide the texturing. So what I am going to rely on is this texture view in here. So for the fancy version, what I want to do is I'm going to change up my tonality in here. I'm going to put my tonal here. Let's switch this up to a white. And just another variant of white. And nice thing about Substance Painter, you paint with masking, which is extremely powerful when they combine it with the shader stuff. I'm going to go to this brush, and I'm going to kill this so I have a nice square brush. Substance Painter, if you're listening, I really think if you hit cancel on your alpha, you should have a brush that is just a nice practical brush. This one does some weird stuff. Alright, let me keep track of which one is my fancy. It doesn't really matter as long as I'm consistent here because I can always rename these in Photoshop. Let me go look and see. Okay, so my fancy cups are the two upper cups. No, that can't be right. How can that be right? That's showing me that the cups are lower. Yet my big and small cups are here. It's odd. Well, I'm talking to myself, but let me see where these are going, being painted at, so I can see. Because I'm doing this as a video, I did that wrong. Did I do that wrong? I did do that wrong. See, this is what happens when you're doing a video. I did do that wrong. But here's how you fix it. Very easy. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, you guys are not green. So let's see, the green ones are supposed to be the big cups. And the yellow cups, that's what it's supposed to be. Talking on the video instead of working. Screwing around. Alright. So the top cups are my fancy cups. Now let's go in here and add the color. By the way, if you hit this, what I'm doing is I'm cycling through. I don't care about any of that. All I care about is the final result here, which is the color. Okay, so how I'm going to do the fancy cups? I'm just gonna streak these with a white line. Okay, so I'm just going to drag my painter over the top, and that, my friends, is how a fancy cup was made. Now, one thing I'm going to do, which you can't see here, I don't have enough resolution in this particular size. I want to put a logo on here that looks like, let's see if I can find this here. I can never just find stuff that I've used for source material, though that's sometimes, let me see if I can find this lemon guy. See, and this is part of being efficient. See, sometimes you just get lazy and you just start throwing textures and files around. This is it. So this guy here, this is my little logo for your mom's lemonade stand. I'm going to put that on the fancy cup on here. but I can't put it in here because it's too low res. And so what I'm going to have to do is, that's going to be put on through a decal on the cup, but inside of here I don't care. Now this color that's in here is too tan, so I'm going to fix that here. Now if I wasn't making a video and talking too much, this cup could have been done in literally, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe, just to make that. So in this stage of the pipeline, I'm done. I have to make sure I save my work. And see, if you have any chance to make content as an indie developer, I'd say you've got to pick an art style that you better be able to produce quickly. And if you're just by yourself, you better be able to do it yourself. If you know, you might be lucky and you'll paint one thing that looks fantastic. But then if you can't keep that same look, you're gonna be discouraged, and it's gonna be frustrating. Also, you better be able to do it within a certain amount of time. In my case, being able to do these quickly was a key to this. So my last stage here is I'm going to export this texture. I'm actually going to export this as a 256 and export this guy. I'm in the folder. I'm going to go over to Photoshop to where my super map is. And one thing is, whenever you set up a new Substance Painter, it always remembers some default to what you configure. I am configuring this to, I have a thing called fast food. All this is, in my preferences, I'm just exporting RGB. The default one exports a normal map, an ID map, and I don't care about any of that crap. I don't need any of that for what I'm doing. So I'm just going back over to here. I'm going to say export this as a fast, in my fast food format, which is the RGB and a 256. I'm exporting as pings. Now, there may be some confusion. I've actually known people who have been in the industry for years and years. Why would you use a ping over target or whatever? We've talked about this in other videos, but I'm going to just talk briefly about it. Ping is a great format if your alpha is always going to be alpha and you don't need to do anything special within a shader. But in my case, I do need to do stuff. So ping is a perfect format for what I'm doing. Alright, so here's my map that it produced. Now that is going to fit right in my slot here. And I'm just going to move this over, and then it pops into place. Okay. Save that. I'm going to save it. I'm going to come back out to Maya. And if I look at the map, I've got to assign it here. So I'm just going to bring up the editor. This is my little fancy tool that I use to kind of get around with. I'm going to assign here this guy. So this is my texture. He's already got the textures in here. So I'm just going to drag this on here. Okay. Now, because I was in this weird quadrant like this, I'm going to try this to see if this will work with multiple selections here. So my tool here, what it does, it lets me position and hide things. So I'm going to say these need to be scaled down to 1/4 their size, and they're going to be put up at the lower left corner is going to be 0.75 position. And see, it does not like with multiple objects, which I feared. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, screw you, Maya. I'm just going to make this a multiple object. And then, actually, that's screw me. I wrote this tool. So now, see, all those cups got positioned properly. So my tool here just lets me remove precisely where UVs go for things. So now that guy is in the upper quadrant, like you see there. There you go. This is an uncolored look. So, I mean, unlit. So in Maya, I have, this is using flat lighting. So in my art style, I said my art needs to look good without any help from lighting. That should be the rule, frankly, in all artwork. It needs to look pretty good. Is my cookie style, notice, look at my cookies. versus a real live cookie, is it look the same? No. And that's what's great about making an art style. You can pick something that people's minds are very forgiving over what is acceptable. You know, there's some things that are harder to swallow. Like I look at, like, say, the South Park style. It may not be technically look like, wow, that is amazing art that's being produced there. But you know what? It doesn't interfere with the content. Not that I love South Park. I think it's a little too crude for my taste. But I think as an artist and as somebody that does content, I respect that they were able to make their stuff with that simple art style and that made it work. Same with The Simpsons. Same with anything you see that's an art style where they pick it. Your art style does not have to be exactly like someone else's. I would recommend, as an indie developer, you choose an art style that you can produce faithfully and consistently and quickly if you're going to do artwork like this. This is my art style. It's simple, it's clean, it's meant to be kind of cheerful and happy. It's not meant to be, hey, I'm trying to compete with, Halo or some other fancy thing. That's another whole layer of art style. And frankly, I after having been in the game industry for as many years as I've had, I'm sick of trying to produce the most amazing, fantastic art out there because it is very taxing. There is people that just love to do that kind of stuff. I would rather spend time having fun doing artwork than worrying about whether the nuts and bolts look exactly right when you're within a couple of inches of that particular model. This works for my style. It works with my time frame. That's how I do it. So, the pipeline. Let's go over that in summary. Start at the beginning. I unwrap the models. I get them prepared. I know where I'm going with this stuff, right? I'm packing these things. The texture needs to be packed in my atlas. I've done my check work. I've done my check to say, well, how many pixels do I need to have on this? So that when I do this, I don't waste time. See, and I've wasted time here. Because, see, this map here, I burned way too much map space for the kind of simpleness that it is. So I'm going to be able to buy some space back. I think at very least it should follow what this was. This element actually up here in the upper left is bigger on screen than this element is down here, although this is two of them. And so I should figure out how to pack those a little bit tighter, which I will. So the quicker you can nail down your stuff, the easier it is to know where you're going. I picked my tools, so I had Maya, then I go into Substance Painting, then I go into Photoshop to pack it, and in the end I go back into Maya, make sure it works. Boom, I'm done. That piece of wood is finished. I go to the next piece, and now I'm going to go through that same process. So I hope this was helpful to understand pipelines, and I want to encourage people wanting to build games that may not have the art skill that some fantastic artist does. I'm very jealous about those skills that people have. But you know what? Your art style can work if you're consistent and you stay true to what you can do. And you know what? That's the great thing about games, and one of the allures of games is you can make stuff complex. You can make it simple. You don't have to think. The only thing that's going to be successful is something really complicated. It can be something simple. It's just, is it entertaining? Does it make people laugh? Does it make people feel something when they look at it? I judged a high school art contest once where they did some animations, and I saw people that were trying different techniques. One of the best ones I saw was just very simple lines telling a story about a warrior going out to slay a dragon. That's a complex thing to do, but this person was able to reduce that concept down to very simple drawings and present the idea in a funny, entertaining way, and it works. So you can do the same thing. And so pick your pipeline, figure that out, and then and just get to work. And nothing is going to substitute doing the work. You got to sit. The saying is, you got to put the asses in the seats to get the work done. You can't just hope for it to happen. You got to go do it. Well, that's it. Appreciate you watching. Hopefully you'll learn something here, or at least I give you some hope that if you're out there wanting to make games, that you can do it. If I can make a game and artwork the way I did, and I showed you how simple it was in a program like Substance Painter, I'm going to do more tutorials on there for keeping art style simple. I'd love to, I'm hoping that it gives somebody out there some courage to try this. Thanks for watching.